Hi, and welcome to Dani After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight is the book club monthly book review, and this month we are reading and reviewing Kenneth Anger's Hollywood Babylon. This is quite a very interesting book, so we will get into it. And when I say we, of course, we are joined by friend of the show, Zach Kopp. So let's go ahead and bring him on. Hi, Zach. How are you?
Hey, Dani, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am good, thank you. So this was your book recommendation, if I recall.
It was.
Awesome. So I will say thus far, this has been my favorite book that we've had to review that you have recommended, that the people have voted for. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. So the link is here. I did post it in the chat, and then I did start. So if anybody has read the book and wants to jump on and be on camera with us to read and review, feel free. If you want to jump in the chat and just kind of hang out there, or just casually watch behind the scenes, that is cool as well. So this is, again, the Kenneth Anger book, Hollywood Babylon. And I just have to say, y'all know I am a little bit OCD with my books. I like them in pristine condition. Well, I was fostering two kittens, and while I was reading the book, one of them started to chew at the corner. I'll forever remember those fosters because of that. It was kind of like a love-hate thing. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, because it's like a talisman to remember, your love of the kitten butt.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I won't forget that. So let's quickly, so the back of the book, the way it is described is the legendary underground classic of Hollywood's darkest and best kept secrets. Kenneth Anger is a former child movie actor who grew up to become one of America's leading underground filmmakers. Hollywood Babylon was originally published in Paris and quickly became an underground legend. Not a word has been changed, not a story omitted. Here is the hot, luscious, plum of sizzling scandal that continues to shock the world. And then inside, it also gives a little bit more of a description. So I'll read that paragraph as well. Inside the cover, it says right here. So it says, welcome to Hollywood, made maniac in its heyday by Joy Powder and cocaine crazed comedies, seduced by vamping heroines, shaken by fatty arbuckles, and I'm totally going to butcher this, orgiastic excess of Errol.
Orgiastic.
Okay, thank you. And Errol Flynn's immoral extravaganzas, stunned by Marilyn Monroe's tragic suicide and Sharon Tate's brutal murder. Take a walk down the boulevard of broken dreams, where the sex goddesses, the starlets, the matinee idols, the American aristocracy, and I totally just butchered that.
Aristocracy.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be one of those nights. You got to keep me in line.
No pressure, though. I mean,
you got to keep me in line.
Right.
In the mafia moguls meet. Here, as it's never been shown before, is the scalding reality behind the glittering facade of America's dream factory, the true stories and darkest secrets behind the lurid headlines that have for more than 7 decades titillated the world and electrified the nation. So, Zach, based on the description by the author, do you feel that was an accurate representation?
I think it was a sensationalistic approximation of the book's effect, and I think it was accurate in that respect. Yeah, I'll just say yes. Short answer, yes.
Yep, I completely agree. I felt the inside description was a little bit more accurate than the back, and I wonder how strategic that was, because the back, when I saw it, I was like, oh, anybody can kind of read that and be like, oh, that's interesting. But I felt the inside was just like, all right, we're going to really tell you what it's about now. I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's more blatant, the inside paragraphs on this page.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. James Watson's in the. I have not read the original, though I know all the contents. I read the sequel written by Darwin Porter. It was even more salacious. Just a few people. I owe knowing about this book to the Misfits. Awesome.
All
Kane
right.
says this book was wild. So okay. So this is, and I know Zach, I emailed with you before about kind of, this is a very different type of book than we've done on a book review in regards to, it's not like a story that just goes straight through, like with one
Right. I hope that
character.
wasn't. I'm glad you enjoyed it because I knew that was going to be a shift,
Yes.
from the usual.
Yeah. So in regards to like doing like kind of the typical notes review that I did, if I was like, let's go chapter by chapter, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
So what I did was kind of as we go through, Zach, I have my notes of like chapters that stood out to me and why, and I'm sure you have some as well, and we'll just kind of go from there. So the book itself, I feel like it looks small on camera, but it's 433 pages, at least the one I have. There was different
I
print.
think you have a different edition. I just have a paperback.
Yeah, I do too. But
Is
yours
it-
still looks different.
Yeah, I think yours might be a little bigger. Let me see
Okay.
what year it's from. But it's nicely done. It's like illustrated throughout with these classic photographs and film stills, like all the way through the book. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah,
This
so
is
mine must be where is this? Copyright 1975, published December 1981.
I don't know. Maybe it's the same edition. Oh wait, here it is. It's hard to read. Copyright 1975, 1981. It's the same edition, but it looks different. I don't know. Maybe yours is just newer. I mean,
So
I bought this used.
okay. I mean, the one I have is 433 pages, but I will say there's a lot, like Zach mentioned, a ton of photos for every single chapter. They're all black and white photos. So if at first somebody's like, "Ooh, that's a big book."
433.
Okay. Yeah, the photos definitely that you put a face to a name if these are names that you might not be familiar with when you're reading, because there were some, especially in the earlier chapters, I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah,
so it's
me
nice
too.
to kind of put a face to it. The beginning of the book, like the very first chapter, the Purple Dawn chapter, it starts the book out in 1915 Hollywood. It explains how kind of overnight the, quote, obscure and somewhat disreputable movie performers find themselves propelled up adulation, fame, and fortune. They were the new royalty, the golden purple. Some managed to cope and take it in stride. Some did not, end quote. And it talked about the joy powder that was referenced in the beginning description, which, shocker, was cocaine. And yeah, just kind of talked about scandals were going to be becoming more and more common in Hollywood. And then the book kind of goes on from there, but it kind of starts out in 1915 Hollywood.
And what he does in that first chapter is he recreates or he creates a religious conception of Hollywood. And I don't know if you know, but he's a Satanist, Kenneth Anger. You probably did because of the Bobby Beausoleil connection. So he's trying to bring up or make literal the idea that Hollywood stars really were the new royalty, and there really was kind of a new stratum of control over the viewers with all these. I mean, I don't know if I'm quite doing it justice.
No, you are. Absolutely.
He's talking about D.E. Griffith's film about like the Gardens of Babylon, is it? Yeah, Griffith's vision of Babylon. So it's part of a film that he's doing. I just appreciate the way he like inducts the reader into this kind of psycho pseudo-religious mindset as he reads through the rest of the book,
Mhm.
he or she.
Yeah. I will say at first, the author, so Kenneth Anger, his kind of tone with the book and his writing style, it changed. I felt, and please, if you disagree, let me know. I felt as the book went on, it kind of shifted in a good way. Because at first, the way it was kind of laid out in his writing style, I was like, oh no,
Yeah,
oh
it's more a
no.
flight of fancy that the introductory few chapters, I think, are like heavy with his pseudo-poetic kind of
Mhm.
fantasy creating. But then he gets more into the literal facts of each case. And I'm sure you appreciated that more.
Oh, very much so. Very
Yeah,
much so. And I have some notes on those as it goes on, but
that's good.
I
And
felt like
oh, go ahead.
no, please go.
I figure I'll just stick with the ones that you've chosen that stick out, and if anything else occurs to me that you've missed, I'll just bring it up.
Okay, sure. Um, so yeah, I felt like as the writing style went on throughout the book, I don't know if his confidence grew as a writer. I don't know. It just to me there was a definite shift for the better. Because if it was how it was at the beginning throughout, I would have been like, oh, I still would have read it, but I was like, oh
I
man.
think that's an excellent point. I think he feels like he's won you over and he's sort of feeling confident and proceeding in that confident mindset,
Yeah.
that confident vision.
I will say the cover of the book. So, and I saw James Watson being like, Jane Mansfield's cleavage. Okay. But I, based on the cover, expected a lot more of Jane Mansfield than
Me too, yeah. And have you seen the movie on Netflix made by Mariska Hargitay called My Mom Jane?
I haven't. No.
It's very well done, but it only gives. I mean, I don't know what really happened. And like you, I was expecting more of an expose of Jane Mansfield and Hollywood Babylon because she's on the cover. But it's very well done, but it only gives the facts from the perspective of her husband, Sam, or I don't know his first name, but Hargitay, and her daughter, who never really knew her mother growing up very much. So
Yeah.
it's like a very heartfelt and tender, appreciative thing. But I was expecting more because I've heard things about Anton LaVey and like Sammy Davis Jr. and the Church of Satan. I thought there'd be more.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure who it was who mentioned they read the sequel. I think there has been. I think the title has been used by someone else in addition to Kenneth Anger, but he also wrote Hollywood Babylon 2. Kenneth Anger did, and he always wanted to write Hollywood Babylon 3. I did a little research. You probably did too, but he didn't. He didn't end up doing it because of pressure from the Church of Scientology. Apparently, he had a lot to say about Tom Cruise, and it was just bad timing. And then he passed away before he was able to just find a way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No,
I
that is.
also read some book called Hollywood Babylon that was more like a tabloid. I mean, not that this isn't, but it at least has a veneer of artistry. And
Yes.
I
Well
feel
said.
like because he was there, you can kind of trust his gossip, but it is gossip,
Yes.
you know?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I think based on the cover, because there are other celebrities that are talked about a lot more in the book and kind of
Right.
woven in and out. So, like for example, Chaplin is really woven in and out throughout the entire book. Like I think having him on the cover would have been like a better depiction. I just expected more of who was on the cover based on this, but that's just me.
That's a good point.
So the first chapter that kind of stood out to me was about Charlie Chapman. It was an early chapter. It was Charlie's Nymphs. That was the name of the
Right.
chapter. It was a photo of him with Gloria Swanson and Marion Davies. briefly, it mentions the story of Peggy, Hopkins, Joyce, and Charlie. And it, again, Charlie gets talked about throughout. But there was this kind of shocker where it's like one of his wives had $3 million in her bank account. It was alimony from 5 different prior husbands. And then also Charlie's first wife was only 16 years old.
Right.
They got together and she got pregnant. And I was like,
and what was he, like 35 or something? Older.
yeah, much, much older.
47. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so I first read this book as a little kid on a road trip with my mother to visit my grandmother in a town called Stephenville, Texas. And I don't know where I must have found it, but like it was in a grocery store, it was in some store along the way. And I was so shocked because Charlie Chaplin was always like the good guy, you know, the tramp, the comic little good guy. And I had no idea he was such a rake, to put it mildly.
James Watson says the book is about sex, so of course you're going to have one of the biggest sex symbols on the cover.
That's true.
Okay, James, I will give you that. But I will say there are different
It's
like
not the
Hollywood
only
female
topic.
celebrities in this book that were talked about more.
Definitely.
Jane has big boobs. She's a cover girl. Okay, all right, y'all. Okay, all right. Dani After Dark I've been corrected. Due to Manson with Bobby Bosley was writing on doors and walls long before Manson supposedly thought of it. So the other chapter that kind of stood out to me, again, it had Charlie Chaplin in it, was the Lolita chapter. And Lolita was Lolita McMurray. Charlie Chaplin, okay, a little bit of a, all right, Zach, yeah, we need to get your thoughts on this as a male. So the chapter talks about how Charlie Chaplin first set eyes on her when she was 7. Not 17, 7. She became a child actor. By the age of 16, she was a leading lady in the Star of Chaplin Studios. She then got pregnant and they married. She had another child. Lita filed for divorce and her family went after Charlie legally since she was underage when they got married and she got pregnant. Charlie ended up having a nervous breakdown. She filed a written complaint. It was about 40 pages and sold it for 25 cents. One of the legalese words in the book was, in this complaint, was fellatio, and everybody had to look it up in the dictionary because they did not know what it meant. And I just threw a lot of information at everybody, but he set eyes on her when she was 7.
Yeah.
And then again, getting another 16-year-old pregnant.
And there's something, I can't find it, but he says something about her not being very intelligent. And Kenneth Anger just kind of puts it across as if like that's the thing to believe. But I'm trying to find it so I can.
I mean, she's a child. Like, of course, if you're a 30-something-year-old man, she's a child.
And look how different he really looked from that tramp, you know? Here's.
Yeah. Yeah. But I found it very interesting that, like, we're going to touch a little bit more about parents.
Here he is in the witness, in the docket.
Yep.
One trial or another.
So, like, her parents tried to go after him legally because she was underage. And this was after everything. But her family was very involved and even moved in and kind of took over after the marriage. But again, where were they stopping it? Like, they were there along for the ride. And then when it kind of soured, then it's like, oh, let's go after him. I don't know. That didn't.
Yeah, and they kind of don't get it. They don't get treated very kindly in this chapter either by Anger.
No,
But you kind of figure maybe he's just kind of reporting like the tone of the times as part of like his long exhortation. I can't find that part though.
You make an excellent point though, because he isn't. Kenneth Anger, his tone, you get what he thinks in this chapter. It's not just like him being objective, sitting back, being like, here's what happened. He definitely doesn't speak very well of her, which, okay, if you didn't like her for whatever reason based on your research, that's one thing. He set his eyes on a 7-year-old girl and got
that's
another 16-year-old pregnant.
Indefensible.
Yeah, so it's just kind of, if you're gonna be negative, let's share it equally here.
Yeah, no kidding. So maybe, and you got to also think maybe he's more from the generation that like knew and loved Chaplin as a current star. So maybe he's still affected by that, and he sees anything that interferes with Chaplin's comfort as intrusive or, in some way erroneous.
Good point. But there's also sometimes, I mean, we still see it to this day, where celebrities can do no wrong.
Yeah.
So that could be a factor too. But
I think maybe he's trying to create that. He's trying to actualize that effect for readers of the book, because that is part of how life is. Part of modern society. That celebrities get away with a lot of things that other people get convicted for.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to peg his intent, I'd say.
Look at James Watson.
He's definitely not kind to Lita Gray and her mother.
Right. James Watson's, at least he married his last wife when she was 18. You know what, James Watson, you are clearly a glass half full kind of person. So yeah, if you find that quote, just cut me off. I was going to say
we can move on. Yeah.
So the other chapter, if there's chapters kind of in between where you're like, wait, I want to talk about this, just let me know. The chapter Rudy's Rep. So this chapter was about the death of Rudolph Valentine.
Valentino.
Oh my God, did I type it wrong oh my God, my notes say Valentine. Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Thank you for correcting that. So
That's
talks
what I did recognize.
The official cause of death was, I'm going to butcher this, peritonitis.
Perfect.
There was rumors that it was arsenic revenge from a woman who he broke up with, shot by an irate husband, or that he had syphilis and it went to his brain. So, of course, when there's like all those types of rumors, that chapter kind of grabbed my attention. And then more so in that the pink Powerpuff rumors. And the pink Powerpuff was available in the men's bathrooms. When I was reading that, I'm like, what the hell is pink Powerpuff? But it comes up throughout the book. But it is. I
think he meant to say powder puff, but there's a typo in one place, right? Where he says Power Puff.
I thought.
Maybe I'm imagining that.
I think you're right. One of the chapters I read Powerpuff, and I was like, oh, okay, that reminds me of like the Power. I don't know, it was like a cartoon.
I think that was just an unfortunate typo.
Oh, and then that's the one I went with in my notes. All right.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell. But I couldn't tell whether his accusation was like factual or just trying to give character of like gossip allegations.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't know how you feel about it, Zach, but as I was reading the book, I feel like as the chapters go on, they get a bit more gossipy, to the point where towards the very end, it reminded me a little bit of, do you remember the tabloid, the National Enquirer?
Yeah, I do.
I kind of got that vibe as it went on. I was like, oh, he's kind of getting more and more like almost, I don't know, where I'm like,
I know exactly what you mean. He gets more unrestrained, kind of consistently, incrementally as the book goes on. And he by the end of it, he's just fully smearing people. And that's what I mean by like I think you can kind of trust his gossip because his ear was close to the ground, but it is gossip. So you can't really just take it for granted. And that's why I bring up that movie, My Mom Jane, because even though it's definitely edited to favor a certain impression, it's equally believable to like the allegations that we've heard. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Keep going. I don't mean to interrupt.
No. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
So the next chapter that kind of grabbed my attention, only because I felt it really started the shift towards the, like we were just talking about, getting
All
a
right,
little
cool.
bit more gossipy, was the chapter called Hollywood Headlines, because that's when it addresses, I mean, gossip was nothing new, but in regards to gossip news and headlines, this is when it seems like society and Hollywood kind of took a turn, where Kenneth Anger was saying that now there was always a girl who wanted to speak about how badly Hollywood treated her, and they would get a cover, but it was also for a price. So, in regards to what these, girls were saying, let me, can you show that one more time, Zach? And I'm going to. Thank you.
Hollywood.
Yeah. So now we get into like the concept of it, where it's like selling stories. Like the girls are going
he
to.
starts talking about Luella Parsons and Hedda Hopper, the gossip columnists, gossip queens. Sorry.
No. Please go ahead. Yeah, I like vaguely remember reading about that. I feel like that part didn't necessarily like grab my attention as much. But if it did for you, definitely.
I think that was what he wanted people to hone in on, but they're like not recognizable names anymore. I just happen to know that from somewhere that they were very influential. And I think I needn't even have brought it up because you already said this is the chapter where it turns to people selling stories. And that's just, those were just like, here's visiting columnist Elsa Maxwell, I think visiting Hedda Hopper or Luella Parsons. But these are prehistoric celebrities in my mind, too.
So did you know of a lot of the earlier celebrities in the book it talked about? Because I honestly, besides like the big names, I didn't know a lot of the earlier ones.
A lot of them were brand new to me, too.
Okay. I just thought maybe I was very
Like
Hollywood
Alma
uneducated.
Nazimova I had never heard of, and Natasha Rambova I had never heard of, and Fatty Arbuckle I had never heard of. I've heard of that story a few times since then, but that was the first time I ever heard that name.
Yeah, I had never heard that name until this book. Let's see. So the other chapter, kind of as the book goes along, this one I will say was probably one of my favorite chapters, but it kind of got into like psychology in regards to mental facilities. So it was the Enditals chapter. So it talked about how some stars, hey Azriel, some stars who ended up in mental facilities, others kind of wrote their own fate out from Hollywood. There was a lot of suicides, ODs, gas pipes, shooting themselves in the head, etc. One of the examples in this chapter is Paul Byrne's suicide was 2 months after he married Jean Harlow. It was in his Benedict Canyon home. And actually, a copy of his suicide note is in that chapter in the book. So that was very interesting. And then it also talks about in that chapter, Lou, and I'm probably going to butcher the last name, Lou Tellegen suicide in 1935, as well as, and a lot of people know this one, Peg Entwistle, who dove to her death from the Hollywood sign. So yeah, this was probably my favorite chapter in the book. Anybody who knows.
So doesn't it make you think of like the modern day stories like Dave Chappelle and Martin Lawrence, and the idea that Hollywood just kind of habitually drives people crazy, that it's just kind of a machine that does that to people as part of its process?
Yep, it will take you in very quickly and then just like spit you out like you were nothing, and now you're left to pick up the pieces. And a lot of people can't cope with that. Yeah, that is spot on, Zach. Absolutely.
So I think he does a good job of making that case. Not that he could foresee the future, but he could just understand what kind of mechanism it was. Churning out what kind of thing it was and the effects that it had.
Yeah. This seems to me be the first chapter in the book that kind of took the negative aspects of Hollywood. Instead of celebrities, how am I trying to phrase this? Instead of them doing actions that were very external, like alcohol and drugs and violence and whatnot, this was more of like introverted, like suicide and things like that, or more, them going into mental facilities, not being able to cope in that way. So kind of the pressure of Hollywood taking it inwards versus on other people, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm describing it in the way it is in my head, but
no, I hear you. And I think it's a nice way, it's a nice place for that. Like, it's a nice evolution of the whole tour of Hollywood. Nice place for that to occur in the book. Like, you've been through all the glamour of ascent and like celebration, and now you've been initiated and you're surrendering, and now you're returning.
So one of the chapters, and I will totally out myself that I had the wrong person in my mind when I read this. So I will give you all this laughing at me moment. How about that? So it was the chapter called Monster May, and that talked about Mae West.
Yeah.
So Mae West came to Hollywood in 1932. She already had the reputation of being a bad girl of Broadway. Her career was huge, but then it declined rapidly after 1938. And it goes a bit more into her life then. But the reason I bring that up is, although there were pictures, but it was of a young Mae West. In my mind, I thought, okay, Zach, or anybody else in the chat, did anybody watch back then it was WWE wrestling, now it's WWF?
I'm not regularly, but
okay,
was there a wrestler based on Mae West?
No, it was the older woman wrestler Mae Young. And I thought this was who the chapter was about. And then,
I think I remember that one.
And it wasn't until like later on, like I finished the chapter, I was way more ahead in the book, and I'm like, wait a minute, I think I had the wrong person in my. Horrible.
You thought that this was her past.
I confused Mae Young and Mae West. And I'm not proud of it. It is what it is. My apologies to everybody. But yeah. And I could have kept that to myself, but no, I'm owning it. I'm owning it.
You could have hit on some kind of insight. Like maybe there's something that Mae Young is that Mae West has in her persona too.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where my mind went.
Similar name.
So that's the only reason I'm bringing that chapter up. So one.
I will say I heard Ringo Starr say that he starred in a film with Mae West called Sextet, and she was a master of attitude. Mm-hmm. And this would have been like she would have been a senior citizen by then, like 82 or something.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh. So was that the fabulous movie? Oh, Russell Cook, you know what's up. So the other chapter, and the only note I have on it was the Death Garage chapter, and it talked about Thelma Todd. She was known as the Ice Cream Blonde, and the book kind of goes through her and her story and her career, but then also her suicide in a car by carbon monoxide. And I'll just kind of leave it at that, but I found that chapter very interesting. I'd never heard of her before, so I found her story and her suicide it was just very sad to read, but something about that chapter just stuck out with me, so I wanted to make sure I
remember reading it for the first time, never heard of her before, and you kind of get acquainted with her, and then she dies so horribly, so I can relate.
Yeah. So the James Watson, I love the Thelma Todd story. Yeah, I agree, James. And James says you can visit her restaurant still. Oh, cool.
Where is it?
Yeah, I was just about to ask James, where is it? So the In Like Flynn chapter was the next one that stuck out to me, and that was on about Errol Flynn. And this was okay. I found this wild from
He
a
was
kind of.
a super freak.
I mean, that's putting it very nice, Zach. um,
Rape, yeah, I forgot about that part.
James Watson off the highway near the ocean. That really does, hun. That doesn't narrow it. But so he was charged, as Zach mentioned, with the rape of 2 girls under 18. There were multiple trials, but he was found not guilty. The part that was wild for me was the court overturned the not guilty verdict and brought him to court again. And then again, he was found not guilty. But I'm like,
Like they're trying real hard to pretend to be fair or show everyone how fair they're being, but not doing anything.
it was the legal part of that chapter was wild, and I still do not know how that was allowed, because based on California law and whatnot, I'm just like, this makes no sense. But yeah, the chapter talks about his crimes again: rape of 2 children, girls under 18, not cool. So if that's something that's kind of triggering, you might want to avoid that chapter. But the legal part of it was very, very fascinating. James Watson, Pacific Ocean, North America. Okay, for Christ's sakes. You know what? Thank you, James. We'll take that. We'll take that, narrowing it down. But yeah, the court overturned the not guilty, and then he was found still not guilty. Wild. And another. Oh, sorry. Let me.
Oh, sorry. Chaplin again.
Because the book is so small, they're beautiful photos, but yeah, they're kind of hard to see like on camera. You have to get really up. But
yeah, I'm sorry if that's. This is a great shot of Francis Farmer. And he must have had to do, he must have had to do some amount of wrangling to get all these photos. There are just so many of them, and they're so high quality. I guess a lot of them are from films, but then there are shots like of this, of Frances Farmer with her lawyer that he must have had to pay someone for.
I mean, if anybody had the funds to do that for this book, it's Kenneth Anger.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know much about his situation financially. But maybe he always was the money man. Maybe. I guess theoretically that's the conclusion.
Let's see. James Watson. Not to defend Flynn, he did have sex with minors, but they came to his boat dressed and looking like they were in their 20s and seduced him.
I don't know.
Agree to disagree, James Watson. Very much agree to disagree. So one of the chapters that follows that, where, again, to me, it was like, how the hell is the court doing this at this time? It was called, this chapter was Who's Daddy, Sugar Daddy? And once again, Charlie Chaplin and Joan Barry. So she had 2 abortions after he had signed her to his, I was about to say record label, but his studio.
Studio or something, yeah.
So it talks about, I put a page number, so I must have done that for a reason. So it talks about how she showed up at his house, page 308. Oh, yeah. Okay. So she, I don't want to use the word crazy, but the word that came to mind is like, she's nuts. So it talks about how she showed up at his house at Christmas brandishing a gun she bought at a pawn shop. The master actor and director found these histrionics an erotic turn on. He dispensed the pistol and bawled his deranged, estranged protege on a bearskin rug in front of a glowing fireplace. When she turned up again a few days later to make a scene, then he called the police and ordered her to leave town. I'm like, wait, what? She showed up with a gun and he got turned on and had sex with her. And then when she showed up again a few days later, he's like, you know what? Let's just get her arrested.
That's one of those moments where you got to wonder if he's kind of taken some liberties in the passion of writing his great book about Hollywood, you know? Or maybe that was just something that was being alleged at the time.
Yeah, because even Kenneth's wording, the way he describes that, I'm like, he could have just said it very simply. We get it. But yeah, it was just so weird.
But Charlie Chaplin, for all we know, really could have been this demented madman, you know? Mm-hmm. And he certainly was like a very wealthy, famous celebrity who could have done whatever he wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's all possible.
So speaking of him doing whatever he wanted, so he ended up getting Joan's salary reduced. He had police, as I mentioned, escort her off set. So then she tried to climb the wall to get into his house. Charlie did a blood test once the baby was born. And okay, so keep in mind money-wise, back then he gave her $2,500 a week.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a lot of money now.
Whole lot, yeah.
But once the baby was born, the DNA test showed he was not the father, but the court ruled that he still had to pay the child support. How?
I don't know, these laws around here.
Yeah, I
found a paragraph talking about Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons. It was just later than I thought, about how they were, it says, Chaplin's most bitter enemies, Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons, two battle axe columnists, were as famous in their heyday as Gorgeous Garbo or Marlene and the other stars whose lives they wrote about. They were, however, much more powerful and had set themselves up as the arbiters of the film colony's moral life. So it just came later than I thought.
Nope, that's fine. That's pretty spot on with how that was playing out. That's part of one of my notes is a little bit of gossip columnists. Oh my God, it's been a day.
Tell me.
And it seems like there was two of them in particular that were huge during their time, and they had a clear hatred for Charlie. So.
And there's sort of like an outgrowth of the William Hayes or whatever his name is, Hayes, that implanted the moral code. There's a whole chapter of him where he's like grinning, toothless guy, and he implants like a moral code on Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And I guess he predates the McCarthy thing, but it's the same tactic. Mm-hmm. Like where you're going to find everyone who doesn't adhere to the moral code and out them and arrest them and deprive them of their stardom. And
how'd that work out?
Well, it didn't last long. And then I'm saying like it turned into gossip columnists on the same kind of crusade, but like with less of a battle axe to grind, you know?
Yeah. It's just, I feel like as the book evolves and, goes through time and as Hollywood evolves with that, the gossip columnists, like what a time to like have that kind of start up and kind of go with the momentum that it did and kind of build as it did. It's just so wild because we're so used to that now, but to kind of see how it evolved back then, it was pretty cool to read.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I'm always trying to I guess everyone is always kind of trying to stay sensitive to what is going to become the next big thing. or like what's a cool little thing to start doing because it's going to take off. I looked for it more when I was younger, but I still like to believe that there's always something brewing, there's always something great in the works,
Hmm.
if not
Yeah.
fully visible yet.
Yeah. And with Hollywood, there's always something.
And it's
um,
cool to see like how it all grew into what it became instead
mhm.
of looking at it from behind, from like the present when it's sort of all surrounding and like fully out of understanding ability.
Let's see. So Tish adds Hays Code suffocated the exciting Hollywood filmmaking at the time. Pre-Hays movies were way better.
Yeah, good. You found it.
Thank you, Tish. Um, and then Capone and James are just going at it in the chat. That's all good. All good. Y'all are funny. Um, let's see. The chapter of Daughter of Fury, Frances Saint chapter. So that was about Frances Farmer. So I found her chapter very interesting. I'll read a little bit from it because for some reason it reminded me of nowadays like Britney Spears and like the Free Britney.
Totally.
I don't know, something about it just was like I feel like I'm like reading history, but it's also still playing out.
Yeah, it's like they railroaded her into insanity because she wasn't compliant enough with what they were trying to program.
Hmm. Yeah, she had started out acting, and then Zach, as you mentioned, she hated the rules of Hollywood, and she ended up getting arrested for drunk driving, attacking police officers, and she had a nervous breakdown in court. She was very defiant, and the judge gave her a 180-day sentence. Her mom ended up coming forward and saying, "Well, it was just a big publicity stunt." They did not have a good
Mm,
relationship, so that was not said with
yeah.
good intent. And let's my cat do it. Her mom declared her daughter mentally incompetent, and the treatment that Frances received was tragic because she received daily insulin shock treatments for 3 months and had 10 years of, as the book says, hell in front of her. In 1944, she was judged and put into confinement to a state, the book says it, loony bin in Washington,
Mm.
her home state. And no one who worked with her had anything nice to say about her.
So
So,
it's like she was just frozen out, like she wouldn't play the game. I mean, I don't think she had a nervous breakdown either, really. She just kind of, I mean, who wouldn't freak out when you're suddenly in a courtroom and fighting for your like innocence, I suppose, in a case where you're not at all guilty. She
yeah.
probably just kind of had an outburst and somebody saw the opportunity to turn it into a nutcase situation.
Yeah.
So I feel like she's kind of a martyr of the star system in that sense.
Yeah, and this was we'd read about kind of in earlier chapters and discussed about maybe parents not having their children's best interests at heart. But when I read this about Frances's mom, it just seemed like somebody just swooping in to take full advantage of the situation and to just basically screw her daughter over. And where is it? Russell, you had a comment in the chat. Yeah, Amanda Bynes. That's an excellent example of
Oh
another.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Perfect example.
My cat is being really annoying right now and making a lot of noise, but that's all right. So yeah, something about that. Yeah, I agreed with you, Zach. I was just like, what was this more of? Was she really this complete and total train wreck, or was it someone that's like, I'm not following the rules and she had to pay
She
the
she might have
consequences?
been like a little unkempt or something, but I don't feel like I have the right to take anyone's word that she was insane based on the facts of her railroading. It seems more like she was disposed of. I mean, I don't
That's an
know.
excellent
I'm
word.
not a gossip columnist. I'm just reacting to someone imitating a gossip columnist.
You know what, Zach? I think you have another career path in your future. Zach,
But I also saw a
gossip
movie
columnist.
about her once. There's a movie called Frances that's worth seeing. That's all about her railroading.
Okay.
So it might have been. I've probably been biased by that a little.
Okay. I hadn't seen that, so good to know. Good to know. Let's see. The next chapter I had a note of Chop Suicide. It was about Lupe Velez, known as the Mexican Spitfire, her suicide in her letter to Harold. The pills that she took to commit suicide, and then she drowned her head in a toilet. But let's see, I have a note
And the
about.
story is that she fell. She was like, I should have put a sticky note on it, but he tells a story that she didn't actually drown in the toilet, but she like tripped and fell into the toilet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was, let's see. There was discrepancy about how she was found. Like the bed was empty. There was aroma of scented candles. There was a vomit trail from the bed that followed her to the bathroom. That was there. She, let's see. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it talks a lot about the vomit, but yeah, the way that she was found and whatnot was just very. It was a very interesting read, but also there is pictures of her deathbed and also her in the casket on page 340 of the book, which I found very, very interesting. But yeah, something about her suicide. It's not quite cut and dry as to how what was reported in the media versus like kind of.
It kind of reminds me of all the supposed facts surrounding Marilyn Monroe's death, which was probably foul play. So like maybe that was going on with Lupe Velez's extermination too.
Yeah, because okay, sorry. Here's my notes, just a little in the wrong place. But the way it was reported was, she took the pills. She stretched out on her satin bed beneath a great crucifix. Her hands joined on her breast in a last prayer. She closed her eyes, kind of like Sleeping Beauty. So that's how it was reported to the public by the media. But in reality,
trail of vomit, toilet.
It was nasty. Yeah. So yeah, that was just very crazy and sad. All right, the next chapter. So if this chapter, I feel like is very for people who are into like organized crime. It was Mr. Bugs comes to town, but Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. So like, for example, my friend Liz, I know when I read this, I was like, all right, this is her chapter. Let me.
Bugsy Siegel. Hey, everybody. It's Bugsy. How you doing? I'm coming to town. I'm coming to town.
Oh my God. Zach, you are drunk with power.
That wasn't me. That was Bugsy. I was just channeling him.
That's one way to put it. Just kidding. So I won't get into like a bunch of this, but with detail, but the Russell, better than Bugliosi. Well, yes, well said. Well said. All right, Tish likes your reenactment there. So the chapter talks about how he grew up, how he got involved in criminal activity. And when I say the chapter, it's like every chapter in this book is like just several pages. It's not like a 20 pages per chapter type of thing. So it's quick, but it talks about he was
all nicely illustrated too. Sorry.
Yes, no, absolutely. That Bugsy was a womanizer, how he built the flamingo with the help of Lucky Luciano, and then how one night bullets sprayed through the living room, 3 bullets through his skull, and he was now dead. The rumors were that he was murdered for not repaying the sums of money that he borrowed to construct the flamingo. So I will say, if somebody is not familiar with Bugsy Siegel and is reading this, you're going to get a little bit of info about him. Just a brief overview. And then if you want to deep dive more into that with like organized crime and whatnot, it's a good Yeah, very graphic photos. This book does not hold back, which I actually very much appreciate. But
I didn't even realize what I was showing last time. Sorry, everyone. Didn't mean to do that. I was trying to show the gangster with the newspaper. Didn't mean to show the other thing.
No, I thought that was strategic that you did that. I mean, it's what we were talking about. So, but no, that's all right. The chapter that I found probably the most boring, but I threw it in here because it is relevant to, I just didn't find it entertaining. It was the Red Tide chapter. So it was an entire chapter about politics, and it discussed a lot about how politics in Hollywood. Let's keep them 2 words, Dani. Politics and Hollywood. They didn't mix, and many careers were tarnished or ended before they could really take off. And this chapter lists a lot of names of those celebrities and how that kind of played out. Before in the book, I didn't see how politics played a part in celebrity, but from this point on, it does. So I just found that interesting for that.
I agree. It was boring but necessary because educational. About the interplay between politics and cinema.
Mm-hmm. So the next chapter, there's just a few more chapters that stick out for me. And then, yeah, if there's anything that I missed, Zach, let me know. But on page 363, the Peep Show, Peccadillos.
Peccadillos.
Oh, I said it right. And it was the 1948 4th of July suicide of Carol Landis. Rex Harrison found her. So this book describes the suicide scene and the suicide note that she left to her mom. And there is a photo of her on the ground.
I'm not going to show it. You can show
there
it
is her suicide note that she wrote for her mom. But also with that, it was, I don't know, there was something about it, about how she's like saying to her mom, I'm really, really sorry to put you through this, but there's no way to avoid it. Like, I love each and every one of my family type of thing. I don't know. It just, the reason that the suicide happened was, according to the book, it was provoked by unrequited love for Rex Harrison. And it's just interesting how he was also the one to find her. So I'm like, girl,
sounds fishy.
You're going to take your life because of a man? Like,
sounds fishy.
I don't know. It was just sad. But let's see. There was another.
And she's also tied up with this pothead, Robert Mitchum.
Mm-hmm.
Pot smoking, no good marijuana smoker.
Let's see. There was also, Gertrude Michael, who was described in this book. She was arrested one night for drunkenness on the beach of Venice. I found this funny. So when she was discovered by police, she sobbed and said, quote, "Leave me alone. I have no friends. I am all alone and everyone has forgotten me. I want to jump in the ocean." She then was taken to the police station where, and this goes back to Carol Landis, she said to the photographers who were waiting to, take pictures of her, quote, "I'm not a poor man's Carol Landis. And will you please retouch my photograph so I won't look like Frances Farmer," end quote. The shade.
Well, it's weird. I mean, it's a weird reality that people really did, and I guess in some way still do, consider themselves better or worse versions of different other celebrities instead of like innately themselves.
The way she was to the police, I'm like, well, yeah, she was drunk, I get that. But what she said to the photographer, I was stunned when I read that. I was like, oh, that is horrible, horrible. But nonetheless, she said it. Tish is, Rex was screwing her, wouldn't leave her. Rex was an asshole. Wouldn't leave his wife. Yeah. I mean, that's a story as old as time here with Hollywood as well. All right. My second favorite chapter in the book, I'm just going in order of how the chapters were. It was the con game chapter.
All
It
right.
talked about, let's see, page 371, the police raiding Madame Billy Bennett's pleasure house in the Hill of Sunset Strip. And she had a leisure that, like a book that had the customer's information. And this, I'm like, oh my God, she was Heidi Fleiss before Heidi Fleiss.
Totally.
And then, so I was reading this and I'm like, how was when Heidi Fleiss happened? I was a kid when that all went down. I'm like, how is that breaking news? Because I'm like, wait a minute, we've been here before. Like this already happened.
America does that, you know, like, and that, I think that's a great thing about this book is it shows you like the ancientness of all these processes that like, I guess are associated with celebrity or associated with Hollywood.
Yeah. No, well said. Yeah.
But
It was just,
things become new as like time passes and new generations encounter the same things that are like still shocking or, you know, inconvenient. And it just seems like breaking news.
yeah. James says they are making a Heidi Fleiss movie. A little late, right? Shouldn't they have done that like 20 years ago? But just an example of this, right? So it talks about her clientele, some of whom had left their Oscars on the mantelpiece in gratitude for, quote, services rendered, end quote. Like, wow. Deserving of an Oscar. I can't talk.
Oh, you're doing fine. I feel like I'm the one blabbering.
Oh, no.
Listeners.
I am. Yeah, it's been a long day. But yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, I'm like, this is Heidi Fleiss.
Story.
This chapter also talked about how now, at this point, there was a lot of magazines about celebrity gossip. Magazines.
The Daily Graphic, the Motion Picture Herald, Confidential.
Yep. That was my note too. One of them, Confidential, and it had a simple formula, which was get a well-known name, a non-flattering photograph, and a story, and present it in an assorted episode in a mocking, humorous manner. That was their formula. And my note is, it's just like today's trashy magazines, like the National Enquirer.
Yeah, it was definitely a precursor. Like that came before the Enquirer inspired its creation.
And then it was very interesting because it seemed like for a long time this was just common and there was celebrity gossip magazines, but it wasn't until 1957 in this chapter we learned that one celebrity had enough and she decided to file a lawsuit against the magazine. That was Dorothy Dandridge. And then when she did that, other celebrities followed and also filed lawsuits against these magazines. For example, Hollywood public relations man Robert Murphy was sent to the state capitol to talk with the attorney general. He even threatened to withdraw the financial aid the movie industry was planning to grant to the next Republican campaign. So this, again, is one example why I mentioned that earlier chapter about politics playing a role, because it works its way in, and this is a great example of that.
It plays out. And here's this gratuitous picture of Jane Mansfield with no mention of Jane Mansfield. Just a picture for no good reason.
Okay, thank you.
Getting clumsy with the picture placement.
My note, Zach, is that page 376?
Yes, the very one.
I put 376, a random photo of Jane Mansfield for no reason. That was my note.
Oh, I'm glad. Great minds think alike.
Yes, absolutely. I saw that and I was like, oh, we're going to finally get to Jane Mansfield.
I know. It's like, oh, here we go. Oh, man.
Yeah.
There's Jane Mansfield. Rory Calhoun.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so glad you noticed that. Because I just thought I was losing my mind. I'm like, where's the what? But if you're someone who Yeah, James Watson. Nice. Page 379. So you get 3 more pages in, and it mentions Jane Mansfield, but only in passing in regards to some of the victims of a series of kind of celebrity stories. It mentions Marilyn, Lana,
Yeah,
Ava.
only uses her first name.
Yeah, only first name. So the reader has to know it's about Jane Mansfield, but again, it was just quickly in passing.
Good save, but it's still clumsy.
Let's see. And then the last couple of notes I have on this book on my end was, let's see, the Blood and Soap chapter, which was about Lana Turner, how her man, oh my God, my note says Johnny Valentine, Johnny Valentino.
Oh, maybe it is Johnny Valentine. I thought you were talking about Rudolph.
Oh, that's it. Okay, so I got that one. So I got this one
Yeah,
right.
it is Johnny Valentine. You definitely got it right. And
All
I'm
right, I
sorry.
doubted myself. So her man, Johnny Valentine, was the bodyguard for Mickey Cohen, was dead, and then the verdict for her trial was justifiable homicide. So yeah, I just found that whole trial about that interesting. That was that. And then the last note I had was it talked more about, still in the Blood and Soul chapter, Marilyn Monroe, suicide with sleeping pills, Jane Mansfield, it talked about her death, and then the Sharon Tate murders got briefly mentioned. But all of these, women, I feel like you could have easily given them their own chapter. And they
I
just kind of
agree.
been,
I feel like he goes way too fast towards the end of the book. So I
yeah,
wonder if he had a deadline or like he couldn't fill too many pages or something.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt.
not that I would want any of these cases to be in a book to be like, is
Like
exploited the right word?
exploited, yeah.
Um,
But
but if
maybe
we're
at
going by
least
what this book
covered.
is, like each of those seems worth more than what he gave. Um, all right, so that's like the notes I have on that. I have like kind of my overall about the book, but before I get into that, Zach, what about you? What chapters kind of stuck out to you? Was there any that I said that you agreed with, or any that stuck out to you that I didn't mention, but they did something for you?
Oh, I think the chapter Babylon Babblers is the one that's more about the gossip columnists.
Mm,
And not that it stuck out to me specifically, but that was just a part of the book that had a more of an effect on my reading experience, I guess.
okay.
Um, but no, I think you've done a fine job. It's a great book. It's a quick read. Um, you'll find out a lot of scandalous information about people you never knew about, and you'll see a lot of beautiful film sets and autopsy photos and the like.
Yeah.
Here's Will Hayes. That's the guy with the big ears in the center. That's who enforced the standards code. People patting him on the back. Will Hayes. I'm Will Hayes. Ah. Um, I don't know. I liked it. And then while I was reading it, a tiny, almost like a fly-sized bat seemed to land on the railing of my balcony. And I was taking a picture of it, and I was trying to zoom in on it, and I thought, well, I'll go out there very quietly and try to like get up close. But I looked up, and it had flown away. And I had to think maybe that was Kenneth Anger's spirit trying to pay me a visitation, but I hope not.
Interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting way to kind of connect that. Um, oh wait, Capone has a question. Does Kenneth disclose that he was banging Bobby Beausoleil when he talks about Sharon Tate?
No, he just
No.
skims right over it. He doesn't really talk about Tate in depth to the degree you would expect.
Y'all in the chat are so funny. Let's see. back before the National Enquirer, the big scandal magazine was the Hollywood Reporter. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so my notes kind of, yeah, we're in line with yours, Zach, in regards to it's a very easy read. Anybody can read this, and it's a quick read, like you mentioned as well, where each chapter is only several pages, and some of those, there's pictures in every single chapter. Someone can I think, I mean, yeah, it's over 400 pages, but if you had like a whole afternoon to sit and read, like you could essentially just like blow through this entire book. It's very easy reading like that, but it's also, with it being each chapter being on only several pages, it's very easy to kind of read a chapter or 2 or 5 and then put it down and then pick back up. So that's very easy for the reader that way. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, at first I didn't like the style that Kenneth Anger did for his writing, but then I appreciate it as it evolved as the book went on and towards the end. But with that being said, on the flip side, I feel like he got more gossipy towards the end as the book went, and I didn't like that. I know I can't have it every single way, but let's see, lots of chapters, so you get a lot of different info. As Zach mentioned, there's a ton of celebrities mentioned in this book, so there's names that everybody's going to recognize, and then there's a lot of names that maybe you don't, and you learn a little bit about them and kind of go on a different path. There were some people that I Googled after because I wanted a little bit more information on them as a person, because I just found their stories very interesting. Yeah, that was.
I guess I want to say, like, in a way, this book led to this book, my new book, Rare But Serious, which is a collection of interviews, articles, essays, like, because this has multiple celebrities and subjects and topics. And then I read Hollywood Babylon 2, and then I read a book called Rock and Roll Babylon by Gary Herman, which is a more like fact-based, basically gossip type book about rock stars. And it's been like an evolution of a similar form into this current form. But that's about all the insight I have to share tonight.
No, that's absolutely spot on. And props to you for a little promotion right there for your book. Very nice.
It looked terrible. I didn't even mean it to be. I shouldn't even have shown the book, but.
No, you did that so like smoothly and so just like organically. That was very impressive. I would just be like,
thank you.
And here's my book bag. Now back to, like, you connected it very, very well.
That probably would work better.
Let's see. I just want to make sure if there's any comments that y'all have in the chat. Tish says this book is tons of great low quality black and white photos. Yeah, there are. Yeah, there are absolutely a lot of that. Let's see. All right, you guys are talking about that link for the book. I don't have one directly. I got mine off Amazon, and eBay has a ton too, where you can get them either new or used. But I think they're cheaper on eBay from what I recall. I'm just like a book nerd, and I like them new. I don't, because I keep all my books, even though this one has like little kitten tooth marks from fostering, which I'll always treasure.
It's like a tattoo.
Yeah, I like my books in good shape, and
I understand.
It is what it is. But yeah, Tish, just the books on Amazon or eBay or whatnot. My mistake, Tish. She wants a link for your book.
My book is available at barnesandnoble.com or Amazon, and I don't think it's on eBay yet, but it might be. Thanks for the interest.
Zach, can you hold it up again and just go over the title? I'm going to take me off camera for.
Here's a look at the contents. And it's interviews, articles, essays written over a period of about 25 years. So some of the writing is better than other parts of the writing, but I'm very proud of it. A lot of big names here, and thank you for the interest.
Can you show the cover again of your book?
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it on, it is on Amazon. It is on Amazon. Yeah, thank you, Tish. Let's see. Ezreal says, for some reason, the Hollywood Babylon stuff by Anger interests me. The least I'm more into him for his Crowley fascination and Manson links. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, let's see. James Watson. Oh, I have Rock and Roll Babylon.
Yeah, Gary Herman.
If you need to see
made an impression on me in my formative years.
Thank you, James Watson. Of course, you have that book. Okay, very rare to see people actually understand Crowley's works. Kenneth Anger certainly did. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I'm studying the Book of Thoth right now.
The Book of what?
It's a tarot deck designed by Crowley and a woman named Frida Harris. And he wrote a book explaining the tarot called the Book of Thoth.
Something's about to get knocked down. That's all. All right. Well, awesome. This was I will, again, Zach, I said at the beginning, I'll say it again, because a lot of the books that you recommend for book club get voted on, which is awesome. So thank you.
I'm so glad, because I don't read like exclusively true crime and hardly much of it anymore, but there are a few that I think would fit the bill. And the Kenneth Anger book was just one I threw out there. I'm glad it hooked a few listeners, eager readers and listeners.
Yeah, this was my favorite one that you've suggested so far for book club. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if anybody who's watching this, whether it's on replay or whatnot, leave a comment in the chat. If you in the comments below, if you have read this, what your thoughts were on it, if there's any takeaways that you agree with, that Zach mentioned or I mentioned, or if there's other things that you're like, hey, y'all didn't talk about this, but I loved the chapter and here's why. Leave a comment. Love to see it. Yeah. James Watson, can you show the cover again so we can find this book? You are horrible, James. Let's see. Azrael says that the I'm going to butcher that. Thoth Tarot. Okay.
Thank you, Azrael. And to you.
Hello, long time no see. Good to see you. I remember reading that book when I was a preteen. It was interesting. Yeah, you're Zach, just kind of like you, reading it when you were young.
Yeah, I think I might have been a early teen or preteen at the time. I'm not really sure.
So yes, this is the August book club book review. So again, thank you, Zach, for the recommendation for this.
Thanks, Dani.
Voted, and yeah, thank you. So September book club, I will put out a poll on I'll say Facebook, on the YouTube, kind of like the posts that I did this past month. That really seemed to work out. A lot of people voted that way. So again, if you don't have a YouTube account, but you watch, this show anyway, and you still want to, have a say, you can either email me, thedaniafterdark@gmail.com, or DM me on Instagram or whatnot and be like, here's my vote, review this book. So I'll put something out in the next few days for September, and then we can vote, and then, yeah, we'll see what September book review brings. So I'm excited for that. Busy week next week. True Crime and Chill tomorrow night, and then next, was it Monday or Tuesday? I can't even remember. I already put the event up. Yes, I will be interviewing my former Manson Saga discussion panel co-host Paul from the Paulcast. Yeah, I've had some people message me like, what? So he will be on next week. So stay tuned for that. And then next weekend, I will be away at CrimeCon. So yeah, Zach, hope to be able to
I'll see you there.
meet up with you there. I'm very excited.
We're meeting on Sunday. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And,
Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend, and I'm excited finally get to meet you in person.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for book club. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you again, Zach, for being here tonight for book club. And remember, everybody, until next time, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us. Bye, everyone.